started here. So first off, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today on this hot, humid day. Also, too, remember to follow us on our Facebook page if you want to know what's going on. You can check out our website, and then also, too, really great way to know what's happening here at Flaming Art Museum is to become a member. And we have multiple different ways for you to become a member. And if you have any questions about that, there's people that can hook you up with a membership today before you leave. Or we can give you paperwork to take with you, and you can always fill that out later. So I'd like to welcome the artist here. This has been a fantastic exhibit to have over the last couple months. A lot of great interest as people coming in, not only to the paintings themselves, but also the individuals that are in the paintings. And so it's been really great and impactful exhibit to have here at the Flaming Art Museum. So we're very, very thankful for having Rachel here as part of the landing experience. And so I'm going to actually turn it over to Rachel to have her introduce herself. And then kind of go on from there. So make sure you have a lot of great questions for her afterwards, and I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Of course, thanks for coming today. As Eric mentioned, it's summer. There's all sorts of activities and things going on. So I really do appreciate anybody who's here inside when they're going to be outside enjoying all the things. So thanks for coming. I'm just going to give you a little brief kind of overview of the exhibit and kind of how it came to be. So first off, everybody in this exhibit, if you haven't had a chance to really read any of the stories yet, everybody in the exhibit has neurofibromatosis. You may or may not be familiar with that, but it's a genetic disorder. It causes tumors to grow anywhere in or on your body. It's a progressive genetic disorder. There's currently, there's not a cure, but there are definitely a couple of different NF charities kind of working toward treatments and that sort of thing. I can tell you that it's also a genetic disorder that can affect anybody at any time. So my son has NF, and I say that because my husband and I did not, neither one of us had NF. So when my son was diagnosed with it, I had never heard of it. So I always like to make sure I tell people I had never heard of this. It even took a while to pronounce it correctly, which is why we just called NF, much easier. And my son, I needed his portrait. He's going to be 22 next month. I'm pretty certain he probably couldn't even spell that. So that's why we just go with NF, much easier. But beyond the tumors, and I should mention that NF, like half the people who get diagnosed with NF, it's spontaneous, like my son. But the other half, maybe mom or dad had NF, and sometimes mom and dad didn't know they had NF. It can sometimes be one of those sorts of scenarios. But what I can tell you is what I enjoy about, and I think the Blandon for hosting my exhibit is, I always feel like when it comes to NF, it's very important to see a collection of people who all have this shared experience, because the irony is, I'm a portrait painter painting people with NF, and there is no portrait of NF. So you'll tend to notice when you come in here and start looking at the different portraits and maybe some of the different people, you might look at some people and say like, okay, I can tell something's going on or whatever. There might be plenty of people that you just look at their portrait and say, I don't really see anything. This person seems fine. And then it's only really that you start reading the story. And you're like, okay, I can see now that obviously some of these tumors are internal, and so that's, kind of where some of that takes place. So as a mom, when Henry was diagnosed, he was 4 months old, but as a mom, I made the mistake, of course nobody here would do this, but I made the mistake of jumping on Google and typing neurofibromatosis, and then, being almost inundated with all of these, really visually heart-wrenching depictions of the disorder. And I'm a mom, so maybe we just do this. But I was like, oh, it's like, Henry's got all this stuff, I mean, like, instead of realizing that not every sort of NF affliction is going to, of course, happen to you if you get that diagnosis. It's kind of a bad analogy, but I kind of liken it to like a buffet. I know that's really terrible, but with a buffet, you can pick this or that, or NF is kind of like that. You don't know. Will you have tibia dysplasia? Will you have learning challenges? Will you have fine and gross motor skills? So who knows? But they're all there for your possible. Does that make sense? So really, when you get a bunch of people together, if they should all have NF, they're all going to have a different sort of presentation of that. But I can tell you this is kind of funny. So we go to St. Louis, so we go to Wash U for my son's care. And this will show you a little bit how obtuse I am. But I was talking to him at one point, I said, it'd be really helpful. I said, it'd be kind of nice if when your child or when you're diagnosed, I said, if you could do some sort of like blood work or something. I said, it'd be really great if you could just kind of tell us in what ways NF would affect us. And he started kind of laughing, and all the lab people started giggling, and he's like, so that's what we're trying to do in the lab? I was like, okay. But at that time, he goes, just so you know, it's chromosome 17, and when it mutates, it can mutate in whichever and whatever way it wants to mutate, hence all these different sort of variations. But at that time, they had already come up with 3,600 and some ways that it can mutate, which I thought, that's a lot of paintings. So, so I'm not sure I'll ever paint as many portraits as there is ways to mutate chromosome 17. But as you can see, like I said, it does affect everybody differently. When it comes to this exhibit, hopefully you've had a moment or two to read at least some of the stories. I can tell you that I ask everybody to write his or her own story. I don't want to share anything that they aren't comfortable sharing. So each person decides what they would like for public consumption as far as dealing with NF. They also decide what they want to be doing in their paintings. So I don't tell them like, you will read a book. So whatever they want to be doing is kind of where we go from there. And then I usually ask the person to. So I do this all kind of online. If only I could sit down and paint them all from life, that would be really awesome. But it doesn't work that way. So I ask them to just ask a loved one or friend or something to take the portrait of them doing whatever it is that they want to be doing. You will notice that none of them are looking at you. So I am very clear that I want them to be engaged in an activity and looking away from the viewer. I don't want, for the most part, sometimes now you guys are going like, wait, she's looking at me. I feel like everyone's going to call me out now. Okay, all right, you guys. For the most part, I should have qualified. For the most part, I want them to be sort of just engaged in whatever they're doing. Only because if they are looking directly at the viewer, sometimes that can be actually unsettling for us as the viewer. And so the last thing I want to accidentally do is have a bunch of people, have people come into a gallery and have a bunch of people staring at you. It's like, well, I want to raise awareness, not have everybody feel kind of unsettled and leave. So I want the portraits to be sort of a three-way conversation of like, this is somebody, I wonder what his story is, I'll read the placard. I always kind of just say I'm just making introductions in oil paint, because that's really all I'm doing. I just want you to actually meet these people and hear their stories. And then hopefully, when you get done, hopefully you know a little bit more about neurofibromatosis, or maybe, like I said, maybe beforehand, you just hadn't ever met anybody, or maybe you were like, oh, I actually think I have met somebody with NF before. I just didn't know that that's what it was called. I had that happen in so many of these exhibits where people come up and they're like, I bet Bumpy Nick had that. Bumpy Nick. That happened once. I was like, I bet Bumpy Nick had that too. But you know what? People just don't know what it is, or And the other thing I just want to make sure, like I said, when I talk about people can have internal tumors, NF is just so much more than just tumors. So a lot of time it can be some people with NF have like kind of deep anxiety. Some people have ADHD. Some people have just some cognitive impairment things, gross motor skills, fine motor skills. My son has fine motor skill issues. Like I said, he's going to be 22, but he's very adaptable. So it's like he wears shoes that don't have laces, and he's fine. And I think too, as the years go by, I think we're more kind of in tune with some of those things that we try and you know, we're a little, like collectively as a community, we're a little bit more understanding with some of this stuff. But you know, like that affects him. Other people have NF, they're fine. They don't have to find motor skill problems, you know, that kind of thing. But anyway, that was, like I said, that was kind of, that's kind of the basis of the show. I can also say, the other reason I started painting portraits was because when you have a loved one diagnosed with something, and I'm sure all of you at some point have either been a patient or have a loved one who's been diagnosed with something, so I feel like all of us have dealt with this in some way. You do kind of feel like you want to do something. So for me, in the beginning, I was like, I need to do something, and then I think this is like in 2008 or 2009 or something, but I reached out to a couple different NF charities, and both of the NF charities sent me packets of information on how I could basically run. I could be on an NF endurance team. I could start a walk. And it's like, you don't want me to organize anything? It's a bad idea. It's like, no, I'm not gonna organize a walk. That's not my skill set. And I don't run. Unless it's, I mean, unless somebody wants to chase me, I am not going to run. I don't know who those moms are, but they are amazing. So that's not me. So I was like, and then you kind of, it's like, well, I'm not gonna run and I'm not gonna organize anything. But it's like, but I do like to paint. So I would say, if any of this sounds interesting, but it's like leaning into what you already enjoy doing has been a good way for me to sort of use portrait painting as an outlet to also help educate and so that's kind of it. Does anybody? I'm just going to kind of open it up for questions if anybody has any.
What were their reactions to the paintings then? I mean,
well, thankfully positive. I worry about that. It's like, well, just because I paint your portrait doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to like it. But I always do a pencil sketch first, so it's not a complete like surprise. You know, I will do a drawing, and it's like, this is what your painting's going to look like. Do you like this? And then if you do, then I will commit it to oil paint. So since everybody, at least at that stage, has a little bit of say-so, that they tend to like the results. Anybody have a good question? It's something I worry about every single time.
How does your son deal with you doing all this? Is he like a typical teenager that not quit bringing attention to me, or is he all in?
So that's a great question. So the truth is, when I started doing this in 2008, 2009, I had not told Henry at that point that he had NF. You know, because I was like, I want to do something, but I don't want him to be suddenly the poster child of neurofibromatosis. I mean, that's a real tricky thing. So I started, and I also hadn't told him he had it. It's like, how do you tell your kid really that they've got an incurable progressive genetic disorder? Like, that's heavy. So I did what all moms do? No. So then I just started painting all these portraits. But again, I hadn't really told Henry. But he knew I was painting all these people and all these portraits. So he's seeing all these portraits. And then we had to go to the ENT when he was about 10 or something. And we, you know, just a typical get your tonsils out and adenoids and all this stuff, which is, you know, that's normal. Except that the ENT tells me, she's like, well, she goes, you know, NF can just do really kind of funky things, you know, to people, you know. So she's telling me that, which NF can do funky things, like wherever it wants to do funky things. But that's what she was telling me. And then Henry finally goes, do I have that? He's like, do I have NF? He's like going to all these appointments. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then he goes, you mean like all those people in the, and I was like, yeah. I think Henry actually thought about half the people in the world were living with NF. We had so many portraits,
Yeah.
you know, and then I really did think it was going to be one of these, like, you know, like a moment. And you know how kids are, they're always like, okay, well, what's for dinner? So, I mean, we went from like, is this going to be this moment? And then it's like, I'm hungry, what's for dinner? It's like, okay, well, it's like, well, that was, that worked out well. But yeah, so I always ask him, like, what, you know, are you okay if I share this? Do you not want me to share something? And he's, like I said, he's pretty, I don't say chill, but he's he's going to be 22. I mean, I guess picture a 22-year-old kid. I mean, Henry is pretty chill. He's had 2 brain surgeries now. He has 5 brain tumors, and we've had surgery on 2 of them at this point. But he just kind of rolls with it, and you know, he doesn't complain. Yeah, he really doesn't. I mean, I feel like I'm really blessed and lucky.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he could, but he doesn't. You know, it's almost like, well, almost probably because I've always had this, so, you know, he just kind of goes with it.
So do they contact you on your, I have this webpage, I'll pay your portrait, or you get people who are interested?
It's actually kind of both. So I should have mentioned that at the beginning too. Everyone that I've worked with and painted, it's all through social media, which is kind of, I think all of us have this kind of weird love-hate relationship with social media. I kind of love it, at least for this. I wouldn't have a project if it wasn't for Facebook, and now Instagram. I'm trying to do that now. So it depends. Sometimes, to be honest, a friend of mine who works at the Des Moines Register sort of contacted me about doing Brian's portrait. You know, so that kind of worked a little differently. He's like, I know this guy. I think, you know, he's kind of going through some things right now. I think it might be kind of a fun kind of thing to do his portrait and work with him and get to know him. And so I did. So like, you know, that was one. And so everybody kind of comes to it a little differently. I have people who then just go to the Facebook page, which is just many faces of NF. But so sometimes I just get these messages in there. They're like, I have NF. Or, and I can say I usually have like a donation component to it. So really, if you or your loved one has NF, you don't pay me. You just donate to one of the NF charities. Like I said, there's like several really amazing NF charities. And each one kind of, well, it's kind of funny. Each one would tell you they're doing all the things, but truthfully, each one has their own kind of like specialty. You know, so like the Children's Tumor Foundation is really kind of heavy into the science. They really want to kind of find a cure and find treatments. And NF Network is a lot more about community and making sure adults with NF feel like they have kind of a support group. And I feel like each group kind of has their, what makes them, I guess, them. So then I have people donate to whichever NF charity, you know, kind of suits their personality and stuff. And then I make the portrait, which is kind of nice because it's kind of this behind the scenes way of fundraising. Because I am not, I mean, at here in a museum where they're, you know, like every place, you know, they you want donations stuff. I'm the last person to go around asking people for donations. I mean, I hate doing it. It's like, it's not my personality to be like, can you give me $50? You know, I mean, well, I'm serious. I'm the worst. No one has ever asked me to be on their campaign, you know, because I'm always like, oh, but if you don't have any money, it's okay. But it's been nice with this. It's like, okay, it's like, this is a nice, like I said, behind the scenes way of fundraising for the different charities. You donate, I do a painting, your loved one benefits, my son benefits, so yeah, so it's like my little kind of side way of fundraising. But
I was just going to say, it's a unique way of bringing awareness to it, and we appreciate you doing that. NFT Biosolutions is another organization that does research as well, and we just want to thank you.
oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
What ultimately will happen to these paintings? Will they be given away, sold, or given back to the individuals that are in them? Or?
I am so glad that you asked. If anybody would like to, you know, maybe purchase all of them, you know, maybe the plan was just going, maybe the board directors, you know, maybe they were all meeting going like, we really need to acquire 120 paintings. I mean, I'm so glad you brought that up. You know, so in all seriousness, I just keep painting. The truth is, I don't know. But in the beginning, people would ask me, like they would ask to buy the painting. Like if that's your loved one, you know, maybe an aunt or uncle or somebody would be like, okay, you know, can I buy it? And I wouldn't sell it in the beginning. I wouldn't sell it because I was like, well, I can't raise awareness. I mean, if I sell the paintings to everybody's relatives and stuff, I can't actually have a show like this if I've sold all the paintings. Not to mention, I don't want to take money. Like, I feel like that's kind of smarmy. So, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I have feelings about that. But even that, I don't know, I always need the tangible painting so I can actually put it someplace so I can raise awareness and stuff. Now, I can tell you, I have sold one, and I didn't, but it was all donation. So it was a huge, huge donation to the Children's Tumor Foundation, and so I let that one go. And if you ever want to visit it, it's in Dr. Deming's office in Des Moines, Iowa, and it's in the Dr. Deming Cancer Center in Des Moines. So if you want to see the portrait of Kathy climbing Mount Everest, Dr. Deming has that on site. But it was all donation for the Children's Tumor Foundation. So I thought I can part with that for that donation. So
You will keep doing these shows and add to the collection as you go.
yeah, like I said, I feel blessed that the Blandon asked me to display here. I'm pretty much open and available to any, university, hospital, museum, community center, and anywhere where people are actually going to come and, look like basically spaces and places that I can display art. Interestingly enough, I stay out of commercial art galleries. I don't want to go someplace where the gallery needs to sell work to pay the rent, like that. I'm not going to go to those venues. But at any place that, again, a place of learning, education, museums, hospitals. I was telling my friend Mary back there that I have a show going on right now at the International Museum of Surgical Science, which is a mouthful, but it's a museum in Chicago. And so I had done a lot of paintings of Ashok, a man who has NF from Nepal. And then every time we fundraise enough money to pay for another surgery, I just repaint his portrait. And so all the portraits are in that museum, and you can kind of see the stages of the different surgeries and the plexiform tumors that we're removing and some of that. But and it's kind of funny, but like any place that's interested, I will probably try to figure out a way to get these stories. And so sometimes I've done a few shows down in Kansas City, and a lot of times when I do that, it'll be a high percentage of people who live in Missouri or Kansas, that I put on display, so it might be a little bit more of a regional feel to it. But, oh, yeah.
How many places have you gone?
Oh, the show? Well, that is an amazing question. So I'm lucky enough to have 4 solo exhibitions this year. So I try to average about three or 4 solo exhibitions a year if I can. Been doing this for about 15 years, so is anybody know how to do math?
15 times.
Yeah, I think times 4. Yeah. So I mean,
60.
yeah, probably. So about a lot, and it's fun though. Like I said, I enjoy it. I try and go all over the country. I've been lucky to have a show down at the Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale had an exhibition. So I'm trying to move things around. Just kind of different places, different spaces. Wash U in St. Louis had an exhibition. Trying to think where else.
They were contacted you alive.
Iowa, University of Iowa.
They have an exhibition hall for paintings like this, like local, well, not local, but.
Oh, okay. Like in the med school?
Mhm.
Yeah, well,
It's at the top of the medical building, like the 8th floor, so that the kids that are in the building can go up to the 8th floor and go to a museum while they're in wheelchairs and have access.
that is really
It
cool.
is actually really cool.
I did not know that. Well, the University of Iowa has an NF clinic. Well, I don't know if I should have said that. Yeah. So the truth is, we would have been going to the University of Iowa for our care had we not already started at Wash U when Henry was younger. But that one kind of came about later. I'm sure, as you guys know, once you kind of have your doctors and team in place, you kind of stay there. But so for most of the people who get diagnosed and stuff in Omaha, and when they're asking, it's like I usually try and send them to the University of Iowa. But I did not know about the exhibit on the 8th floor, so I should make a point of going out there. Sorry I couldn't get a better answer, but how about just lots?
I have a couple questions. One, how did you manage about the paintings? Did you add light because you're working off of a photograph?
I know.
So you imagine based on where they're sitting, you applied the light? How did that?
Yeah, some of these are.
Yeah.
Well, I know
the
you guys look too
shadows.
closely. But
Well, the shadows, I was like, wow, it's a photograph, but she was able to really instill some shadows in there on them and that, and,
Thank you. for
the other
noticing.
question was, several, what number genetic is your son? Did you find out? You know, you said there was 3.
Oh,
No?
who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
okay.
know. One of those,
Right.
the potpourri of things.
You got a number you like, pick it?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as which way did it
Uh-huh.
mutate, I have no idea.
Well, and, do you have a day job?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have to go to work. No, so I work at Creighton University. I teach oil painting and artistic anatomy.
Okay.
And then I also teach in their school of medicine. So I teach medical humanities. So I work with the M1s and M2s, infusing humanities like into the curriculum so that they kind of keep being mindful that people are more than their diagnosis. And so I bring a lot of this stuff into some of our lessons, some of my lesson plans, which is really fun. I'm kind of digressing a little bit here, you guys, but it's really fun to get a lot of M1s and M2s who are scared to death to draw.
I noticed you had, there's a chef, there's a nurse in the back, and so I'm like, where is she getting these people? But it was really interesting, so.
Yeah.
I had to-
Well, and like I said, they kind of let me know what they want to be doing, you know. And those are a lot of courts. I have a lot of respect for nurses. I got lost in courts on that painting. That painting took forever because I'm like, you know, I would sit there following the cord like, you know, so. You'll notice that that's the only painting with lots of cords. Yeah. So everyone else, I'm like, maybe less cords. Yeah, so it's kind of funny. Sometimes after I do these, it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, sometimes when people send the picture back, I'm like, oh my God. But thankfully her scrubs are just blue, so I can get lost in cords. But you wouldn't want somebody to have like a floral print scrub or something with all those cords, because they'll be like, see you in 5 years. Yeah, so you can kind of tell, like sometimes if the background's kind of more intense, then maybe the clothes are a little, and sometimes I'll just ask them, like, could we tone that down? Or tone down the background or something, like something's gotta give. I'm just picking on Candace, because when she sent the picture, it was like, that's a lot of cords. But anyone who's a nurse in here does not feel sorry for me at all, because their daily job is harder than anything I do, so. But
So these individuals are basically from all over the Midwest or the United States?
all over the U.S.
Oh, that's cool.
I do paint people from all over the world as
Uh-huh.
well, but I have most of those paintings at Bergen Mercy in Omaha. I have kind of a around the world with NF down the corridors in Bergen Mercy, so all the physicians and nurses and all the staff can keep walking by people with NF and keep getting refamiliarized. Because I work at Creighton, I'm also installing more display systems within Bergen Mercy, so there's going to be more and more of the NF paintings going through the hallways. But that's where the kind of the around the world portraits are right now.
I could see you at Mayo Clinic.
Yeah, I really was there. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, the one in Scottsdale.
Oh,
So like I
oh.
said, I went to the Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale because there's an NF clinic there, and she reached out to me and asked if I would start painting some of the people with NF at her patients. So I did that, and so we started doing that, and we had a big exhibition and all the things.
Okay, I was thinking the Minnesota, but I didn't know.
Yeah, no, I would love to do that too. I'm kind of up for whatever.
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of, I don't say I'm chill, but, you know, I'm up for whatever.
Which one is your son?
The Kansas City
The one,
Chiefs?
Chiefs, yes. And we lived in Liberty for a while too, so. But yes, of course that's my son wearing a flimsy long sleeve tee in January out in, the cold instead of putting on his coat like his mom said. So that's actually not the painting I wanted to do either, because I was like, would you please put on a coat? Like, let's take the photo, like, it's cold, he's like, I'm good. I'm like, well, this captures teenage, then, who cares if it's, 20 below zero, I'm just gonna stand up there. And then I'm actually gonna repaint his too. I have one of him when he was like 10. And then he was like 16 when I painted that one, and he's turning 22. So I'm gonna have him checking the weather again. And then, but he's a part, he works as a park ranger during the summers. And so he literally has his ranger gear on, and he just looks outside, goes outside and just checks the book that way. So I'm going to be repainting that one.
Cool.
So I'm still hung up on that NF awareness. I know nothing about it. Is it something that is arrested at some point, or is it just a continuing thing through their life, or?
It's progressive. So, I mean, really yeah. I mean, so how you have it today doesn't really mean, So I mean, not to be, I don't want to be like suddenly Debbie Downer, but it's not like you're out of the woods. It's not like, oh, well, good, now things will be great. It's like, no. But at the same time, it just means you have to kind of stay vigilant, go to your appointments, stay on top of all the MRIs and all that kind of stuff. Which I'm more concerned about Henry. I mean, of course, as parents, we do that. I mean, this is not how we just did a full body MRI scan and stuff with them. I mean, it's just not usually the way, like, teen boys or young adults like to spend their time. So I'm more concerned about making sure he kind of keeps that up as an adult. Because it's not a good time. So it's like, it's kind of an easy thing to be like, yeah, put it off, or like, oh, I feel fine. So, but you do kind of have to stay on it.
Have you ever done anything that's passed on?
Yes. So Meg passed away. Yes. I have.
No, I just like a picture. My nephew had it. And he
Oh.
passed away at less than 24 hours old.
Oh.
He was
Jeez, I'm
working
sorry.
on his brain, heart, lungs, kidney, liver, and then external also.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. I mean, that's terrible. Well, I've done both kinds of things. Like Tommy. Tommy had already passed away, so I didn't meet him. His mom sent me that photo, so I needed Tommy, and he had already passed away, and I didn't know him, and I had to kind of I kind of made it up. Whereas other people, I paint, I'll paint their portrait, and then they might pass away the next year, or something like that. And there is, I don't think she's. I painted a woman in Arizona who we were working on the painting at the time, and and I felt bad because they take me a while to do, but she's so excited and she wanted to be selling raffle tickets. So her name's Bee and she's selling raffle tickets. I mean, again, of all the things that people want to be doing in the paintings, but she's selling raffle tickets. She's into that. But anyway, so I was painting her, selling these raffle tickets, but unfortunately, and NF can be very sudden. So it's not like, oh, you kind of know something's going on. It can just be like, surprise, So I'm painting her, and she passed away on a Monday, and I only know that because, several months go by. I emailed her at like 3:30, saying like, I'm finally done. Can you believe it? Here's the painting. What do you think? All the raffle tickets. But she didn't get back to me, and it was like, that's kind of weird. She had passed away at 9:30 in the morning. I emailed her at 3:30. She passed away from 9:30 from NF complications, so she never actually saw her painting. So it was her daughter that found me through Facebook and let me know, like her mom was so looking forward to the painting, and I just missed her by 6 hours. But yeah, I was like, and she wasn't sick. This wasn't the story like, well, she'd been in the hospital. Nope. I mean, NF could be just, I don't want to say malicious enough. I mean, it's not like it has a, but I mean, kind of, it can come off that way because it's like things can be fine, and then, things can just, for no reason, at least that I understand. I mean, maybe neurosurgeons and neurologists understand it, but for me, it just seems like everything was fine, and then suddenly it's like, oh, it turned into an in memoriam. I get so many people that reach out too. I'll sometimes do this, and then they'll have to let me know that this person has passed away and that person has passed away, and it's like, so if NF just wants to do that, it can. But it's supposed to be benign tumor, so, but when they want to turn malignant, then, I mean, sorry, this is not meant to be like a depressing or
very interesting. Thank you.
so,
Very interesting.
but, thanks for sharing, by the way. And thanks for coming.
3 hours away. And
No
I
way.
walked in, and then I read the thing on the wall, and I'm like, okay, God, I evidently needed, I'm a pastor.
Oh.
I evidently needed to be here for whatever reason, so it was not a yeah, it's crazy, yeah.
Well, thanks for
That's
that.
absolutely
I'm
amazing.
sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, any other questions? If you do have any questions that you want to ask Rachel, just grab her, she'll be around yet. But, you know, it's sad to see the exhibit go. It'll actually leave the museum today. And so this is literally the last day that it'll be here. But we've been very fortunate to have it part of the history of the museum. So thank you again. And thank you all. And if you want to see this talk again, it'll be on our YouTube channel. And so give me about a week for me to go through and edit.
And get rid of all my ums and.
No, I think all of it. But it usually takes me a little bit to get it up onto our YouTube channel, where we put all of our talks and things. And we've really been doing that since COVID. So there's a lot of other information that you can find on that YouTube channel as well. So thank you again for coming. There's plenty of food out there, so make sure that you fill your belly before you leave.
Yeah, there's
And,
meatballs out there.
and thank you all.
Thank you.